Hi there, this is Jason Buchwald with musicplayers.com, Senior Keyboard Editor, and today we're going to be talking about the Trigon 6 from Sequential. Many of you may recognize the form factor and even some of the controls as similar to the Prophet 6 as well as the OB6, and you would probably be right, but it is a different sounding synth from that. Perhaps one of the biggest departures is that there's 3 oscillators per voice as opposed to 2, and there is a ladder filter. This is somewhat reminiscent of the Mini Moog and Memory Moogs. However, the Trigon 6 can certainly do much more than Moog sounds. Starting from left to right, we have multiple sections, and it's a very hands-on keyboard as the other series are. We have volume, aftertouch, the pitch and mod wheels over here, LFO section, polymod section, oscillator section, filter section, clock and effects section, and everything is knobs and buttons. One thing to keep in mind, perhaps especially those from the Roland camps, is that there's no alpha dial, so if you want to change your sounds, it's also buttons, and holding down the bank button and selecting numbers or the 10s and 1s columns are also key combinations. We'll get to that in a little bit. Ultimately, we had a lot of fun with this keyboard, and we'll actually demonstrate some sounds now. We'll start with preset number 14, which is a nice lead sound, and it goes like this. Another sound is sound 49, which we'll pull up here. And this is reminiscent of the Cars You Might Think, the percussive keyboard part. I'll give an example like this. Another example of a sound is preset 214. And pull it up there, there you go. And this actually kind of made us laugh because it sounds like the Beastie Boys, Girls from their License to Ill album. Sounds like this. Another preset that caught our attention was 237. And this was a percussive bass sound that reminded us of many, once again, 80s songs, particularly Mr. Mr. Kyrie, like this. Another preset that caught our attention was 262. And this was a good example of the keyboard, which I haven't mentioned. The keyboard is 49 keys, 5 octaves. It's velocity and pressure sensitive. For lack of a better way of putting it, we wish there were more keys. Ultimately, the editors and myself have talked about that, and it's a common theme in the industry right now. It's not a bad thing, but we certainly like 61 keys, or, as you can see behind me, rack mount stuff. But alas, there's no other size version of this yet, and there's no desktop version of this yet. We'll see what Sequential has in mind in the future. So for this sound, just to simply demonstrate the aftertouch, if you play, you get this pulsating sound, but when you put pressure into the keys, it disappears. You put less pressure on it, sound comes back. So, very simple way of demonstrating that, but it is a very nice feature. We actually wish more keyboards had that, regardless of how many keys they have. Now, speaking of funky stuff, besides basses, pads, leads, keyboard can also do effects, like this. Not sure when you'd use that musically, but there are very creative people out there, and I'm sure, will find something. Moving on to the next thing we'd like to show off, that is the percussive sounds that the Trigon is capable of. And you can control the rate, speed it up, slow it down, very hands-on. Again, simple sound, but just trying to show an example. And finally, one of the other sounds we wanted to show off, again, very simple. Preset 468 is a somewhat detuned pad, and it is a good example of how to use the filter and how you can hear the sound change in real time. So for example, I'm going to the filter cutoff, going to the resonance, and back to cutoff. You can hear how you can change the sound. Again, simple example, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. For more news on the keyboard, check out the site.